And we are back up towards the start line for this fourth varsity contest between Princeton and Harvard, the heavyweight men. Earlier we saw the 5V race go off with Harvard taking about a 1-length victory over Princeton. So the current race count for the day stands at Harvard 1, Princeton none, but we'll see another race in just a few minutes, and maybe that standing will change. Who knows? Current time is about 9 a.m., so we are just about ready to get going here. In the Harvard 4th varsity, we have sophomore Andrew Haimovici in the bow, senior Christopher Benadoli in 2. In the 3 seat, we've got junior Max Mezger. In 4, a sophomore Joe Johnson. In 5, a sophomore Zachary Keller. A freshman Thomas Mackey in 6 seat. Junior John Richards in 7. Stroked by sophomore Matt Fisher and coxed by freshman Isabella Ryu. And the Princeton crew, I can't see, we're too far away, so you'll have to give me a few minutes on that one. Flag is up, flag is down, and we are off in the 4V. Looks like clean first strokes from both crews. Both looking pretty sharp. Take a stroke rating for you as they come by.
As these adverse weather conditions continue to persist, looking like the winds died down a little bit, maybe around 10 miles per hour, still south-southeast. But into these first 20 strokes, it looks like Princeton may be up by a hair.
Indeed. Princeton, definitely the more aggressive start here.
Yup, definitely Princeton up by what it looks like to be about 4 or 5 seats on this Harvard crew early on in this race.
Princeton a much higher stroke rating than Harvard. I've got Princeton at 40 now, taking their stride. Harvard was up a little lower at 39. Princeton about 8 seats across this, about 300 meters in. Impressive rowing from Princeton. In the Princeton boat, we've got a junior, Spencer Sands, up in the bow, absolute merchant. In 2, we've got an Australian sophomore, Oliver Schwartz. In 3, freshman Nate Phelps. In 4, the very handsome Henry Evans. In 5, Oswald Stalker from the UK. In 6, captain of the Princeton Heavyweights, Andrew Morgan, a lethal warrior. In 7, Honey the Hamster Johnson. And in 8, big Rob Powell, also known as Pob Rowell, coxed by Michaela Keller, a junior. And Princeton, not quite a length advantage here, but definitely more than 8 seats as we come towards, across the 500 meter mark.
And both crews looking pretty clean here. Princeton, as we've seen in previous weeks, really getting that nice length up at the catch, sacrificing the nice layback for that length, and it looks like it's doing well for their nice base pace as they come into the first 750 meters of this race. Harvard continuing to look clean, but looking like Princeton still surging almost a length up on this Harvard boat.
Indeed. You can really see Harvard has a long, clean rhythm here, but you can just really, if you look at the blades, you can see there's just a lot more aggression in that Princeton boat. Pob Rowell in the stroke seat, he's just known in piecing, he just keeps a steady, consistent rhythm, but it's got venom to it. You can really just see it in the way he really hits the front end and has a very long finish. And the 7-6 pair of Hunter Johnson and Andrew Morgan, a couple of seniors, you know they're going to keep that rhythm. And Princeton right now is breaking open water over this Harvard 4V.
They're Harvard looking like they're understroking Princeton by maybe a stroke rate or 2. But Princeton using that stroke rate to their advantage as they come across the 1,000 meter mark.
I had about 2 minutes 45 across the K. So again, we're seeing some very quick times.
Blazing fast times. Can definitely be attributed to this weather condition. As Harvard still about a length down, holding there.
I've got Princeton at about 36, 36 and a half. Harvard a little bit lower, maybe 35. But Harvard, doing a pretty good job keeping this Princeton advantage to about a length. Maybe they move back to, a half a seat or so. So definitely a consistent rhythm by Harvard. but Princeton, took that early advantage and that really allowed them to gain this about a length margin that they have right now.
But Harvard do look like they're making a bit of a move here, trying to get back a little bit of that length down that they were.
Yeah, maybe back to just touching bow stern overlap right now. Princeton coming into this last 500 meters is going to need to respond. They want to avoid getting rattled. They want to keep this unflappable rhythm in their head. Junior Michaela Keller, coxswain that Princeton boat, is going to be looking over. She's seeing the Harvard bow ball not quite as far away as she'd like it to be. Coming across this last 500, about 4 minutes, 12 seconds or so, we could see a blazing fast time. Harvard still sticking at just about bow ball overlapping the stern of Princeton, maybe moving slightly here. Pabarel, what's he going to do? How's he going to respond? Spencer Sands up in the bow, you hear him yelling. He's shouting out equations, he's calculating how fast they have to go to get this win.
Plenty of room for him to hear after shaving that massive beard he usually sports.
Yeah, lost a lot of weight this week with the shaving of that beard, but Harvard here is moving maybe. Canvas overlap from Harvard. They've got a pretty mean sprint coming. Is Princeton going to respond? We're in the last 250 meters, and Harvard is on the move.
Princeton is really going to have to start cranking it down now. Got to up the stroke rate here if they want to respond. Harvard continuing to move, sitting around.
Still moving.
Cutting the length to about 6 seats for the Princeton crew. Coming into this last 20 strokes, Princeton sitting though, looking like they will be able to hold on. As you hear the crowds roaring at the finish line, Princeton coming into the last 10 strokes of the race, looking like they will take this 4v matchup against Harvard.
Really impressive race there from both crews. Princeton with an aggressive start as they cross the line now. Harvard now, I'd call that maybe 2.5 seconds or so. Impressive racing. Princeton had a mean start and took an early lead, but Harvard refused to let Princeton get away and brought it back to within, I would say, maybe 7 or 8 seats in the last 250 meters. So well raced both crews in the 4V as we head back up to the start for the women's 2V.